Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Meet La Prensa. Today's guest is actually a very special new type of guest we're having on the show, a non-press guest, and not only a non-press guest, a guest that's not from the press, but a guest that's not Latino, our first non-Latinx guest, Aliya Manjee, Capitol Hill staffer. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Meet La Prensa.
Hi, Pablo. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here and honored to be the first non-Latinx guest.
Thank you for being here. So the first question I have is, you in your capacity as a lawyer on Capitol Hill, working on a committee, had a world of work to do for not just the most recent pandemic relief bill, but the previous pandemic relief bills throughout the coronavirus pandemic over the last year. So I guess the first question is, and I'm sure I'm not the only one who's wondering about this, but Ivan got his stimulus check. I haven't gotten mine yet. Do you have any ideas why that might be? What accounts for that discrepancy?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could be going on with your stimulus check. I'm going to start off by saying that I'm not giving any legal advice right now. I'm just providing the information that is available online for everyone to see. You and Ivan likely are in some different situations, but I'll go over the stimulus check for this round of the American Rescue Plan and what it entails. So it is the $1,400 stimmy, as everyone has been saying. I'm a big Twitter person, so I get all the $1,400 jokes. And so if your income is below $75,000, if you are a single filer, you'll get the full $1,400. That slowly trickles down until you hit $80,000. Single head of household is $112,000 income, and married filing jointly is $150,000. So if you are hit those income thresholds or anywhere below, you will get the full $1,400. Some people may not have gotten their $1,400 yet because either the IRS has not processed their 2019 tax returns, or they just don't have the most updated information online. So I know with Ivan, did you file your tax returns?
I did in 2019.
Okay, so they just used the most recent information they had on hand in order to provide that money. They are putting out money as quickly as possible. I think by yesterday they had said they had done 127 million payments already, which is quite a bit for an agency that is lacking in a lot of modern technology. But my advice for anyone who is waiting to get their EIP payment, also that is the stimulus check, is to use the Get My Payment tool on the IRS website. Using that tool, you'll be able to see if your payment is being processed at all, if it's been sent to the bank, if it's been sent via check. And if that website portal does not give you any information, I recommend filing your 2020 tax returns electronically as soon as possible. That'll ensure that the IRS has time to process and you'll be in the next round of checks being sent out.
Excellent. I actually have not filed my 2020 taxes yet, so it's something that I am going to do today. Aliya, turning to a very serious topic for a lot of people is the trauma, the residual trauma of the January 6th insurrection that numerous news reports have said has kind of lingered amongst a lot of Capitol Hill staffers. How are you and your colleagues coping with the aftermath of that violent event at your workplace?
You know, lingered is a great word for it because even going back to the Hill last week, some security measures are still up. They only allow staff in certain perimeters. And kind of entering from there, you would think it would feel safer, but it was honestly a little uncomfortable. I just wasn't sure what was going to happen. The energy felt off. It's hard to think about that even happening. Myself and my colleagues, dark colleagues, were actually working remotely that day, so we feel very lucky. But all of us knew people who were on the Hill, and I think just thinking about that and reaching out to them just makes it even more emotional to process, knowing that that could have been any of us. I do think members and staffers have handled it well in terms of providing emotional support. I know the House and Senate have provided counselors not only to staff and members, but to Capitol Police as well. And some congressional staff groups have also been advocating for more emotional support for staffers, and members have continue to participate in those. So I do think there's a lot of work being done in order to manage that trauma, but it is still a weird lingering feeling.
Have you been back to the Capitol since January 6th?
Yes, I've actually been back twice, and one was specifically for a hearing, so I was there for work.
And the other one was for?
I left my keys and had to go back the next day after the hearing.
So you didn't get to attend the inauguration of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris?
Oh, well, I did. You know what? That joyful experience slipped my mind. I was there for inauguration. I was lucky enough to be a volunteer, and that was a phenomenal experience. Even talking about it, my face like brightens up. But I do think that day was just intense security that everyone expected. So I don't really put that in the same category as just going to work.
Well, Aliya, I gotta ask, did you meet any political celebrities? Like, tell us the tea.
So I met my financial crush, Janet Yellen. Very exciting. She is the Secretary of the Treasury. I've loved her for years as an economics student, and that was very exciting. My role was actually supposed to be to escort some newly appointed cabinet members to their seats, but the role of volunteering didn't work out as planned, but I still did get to hang out with some cabinet members. So now Secretary Buttigieg, Secretary Holland, there's a few others. Secretary Tai for USTR. Very exciting because she also used to work on the committee I work on. So it was nice to see a familiar face in the crowd, but it was such a phenomenal experience. I can't believe I saw J-Lo and Lady Gaga perform. Like, that's weird to think about, but wow. I absolutely loved it.
Aliya, so you've been back to Capitol Hill for at least one hearing in Congress since the inauguration. As I understand it, your committee is actually leading another hearing today. Can you tell us a little bit about what that hearing is going to be about? Maybe offer us a little preview?
Sure. Today's hearing is about examining the expanded role of private equity in healthcare. This topic is not my area of expertise, but from my understanding, the witnesses are going to discuss how expanded investment of private equity firms in healthcare spaces such as hospitals, nursing homes have maybe led to poorer patient outcomes. So I know general equity among different population groups will be a topic, and just examining why private equity has played such a big role in healthcare will be discussed.
Oh yeah, I want to pivot now to another unfortunately serious headline about the tragic rise in hate crimes against Asian Americans in this country. Now, the acronym that I think I've heard a lot on Capitol Hill over the years to describe Asian Americans is AAPI, or Asian American Pacific Islanders. How, as an Asian American yourself, how has this reality filtered up to Congress? We hear a lot of AAPI members within the caucus talking about these hate crimes, talking about this sad new reality for Asian Americans. How does that filter down to the staffer level?
Hearing so many members be supportive of the AAPI community and advocating for them, I think makes staffers feel like they are welcomed on the Hill. Even though we are still a big minority among the entirety of the congressional staff, I think having such strong advocacy from members is very helpful in making staffers feel safer at work. I do want to recognize that the increase in hate crimes has been majority against East Asians, and I identify as South Asian. So it is even a little bit different for me because I know I'm not going to be targeted for maybe some language that has been in the media around the coronavirus or whatever our former president used to call it. And so it is important for people to kind of identify the differences in Asian identity. I know it is all grouped under AAPI, and I'm proud to be a part of that community, but I don't think I have faced some of the things that my East Asian peers have faced.
Aliya, you mentioned that Asian Americans are a minority in Congress. how did you get your foot in the door, and what advice would you give to other Asian Americans and maybe just other minorities generally looking to work in Congress, which has been historically a very white, very male workplace?
I'm laughing a little bit because I say this as a joke sometimes, but it is a book that all first-year business school students at Marquette University had to read. I went to Marquette, but I was not in the business school.
Shout
I
out
just know
Marquette.
this. The book is called Networking is a Contact Sport. And I haven't read the book, but I do agree with that line. I do think networking was the reason that I was able to get my foot in the door. Not knowing anyone on the Hill, I started reaching out to people like on Marquette's campus who connected me to people in DC, who eventually connected me to other people in DC to get where I wanted to be. So I found a very supportive network in my undergrad who connected me to people who were already doing what I wanted to do. So my advice to those who are trying to get their foot in the door is to find someone who works on the Hill. If you don't know anyone, find someone who knows someone who knows someone. That's just the way it kind of works to get exposed to this type of work. And I will say, be confident in yourself, especially if you are first generation. It can feel really intimidating to come onto the Hill as like someone who doesn't have like professional or like white collar parents or white collar work background. This was my first essentially like real salary job. And so it is very intimidating coming to a place where it is majority male and majority white, but I am grateful for my experience, and I'm grateful that the committee I work on is extremely diverse.
Aliya, thank you so much for coming on Meet La Prensa today. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we sign off?
File your taxes. Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.